If you want to be a great web designer, you need to understand the psychology of people because it's people who will be using the websites you design. So in this video, we're going to cover the 3 principles that you must understand if you want to be a great web designer. Let's rock and roll. Hey everybody, and what's up? My name is Ron Segal. Welcome back to our free web design course. Today we're going to be talking about psychology, which is something so important because at the end of the day, a lot of what we do as designers is to influence people, right? You might not want to think about this in a kind of evil kind of way, but our designs are meant to change people's mind and lead them to taking the actions that we want to lead them to. Now, this can be done in an evil kind of way, and if you look at history at propaganda, but it can usually what we're doing it is for good causes or for communication, but mostly just to sell stuff to people. That's what usually our clients want us to do, sell products or sell their companies or whatever. So in order to do that, to communicate and to affect how people use the website and understand the messaging that we want to convey to them, we need to understand some basic key principles about psychology and how people think and how people behave so that we can, lead them to the conclusion that we want to lead them through. Now, on this video, I'm going to cover the 3 top ones that I think that you must know if you want to get into web design. At the end, because there's a lot more to learn about this, I'll give you some resources if you want to dive deeper into psychology, which is something that I highly recommend that you do because it's super interesting. Besides your design work, it's just going to make you a better person interacting with other people because everybody is, people and are affected by these psychology rules. All right, let's get started with principle number 1. So the principle number 1 is called mirroring. What is mirroring? Well, turns out research shows that we have some kind of neurons in our brain that are called mirroring neurons, meaning that we act and feel according to what other people in front of us are doing. So if you see somebody's angry and they're shouting at you, automatically you'll be angry and you'll probably shout back at them. Now, from evolutionary perspective, this was basically a way to build empathy with other people. And you'll see a lot of time when somebody's using the finger, the other person in front of them will use the finger. And there's a lot of ways that we without even noticing, we mirror the people that we see in front of us. Now, why is this important in web design? Because in web design, we'll be using a lot of imagery, right? We might put happy people on the screen, with images, or sad people on the screen, or people that are actually doing something like physical something on the screen. Now, when people see this, because how their brain reacts, they're going to get into the mood of the other people that they're seeing in the imagery in front of them. So if you want to get people into a mood of happiness or excitement, you will use images of people doing these things because people will naturally, without even thinking about this, are going to get into the same kind of mood. So this is a way to change how they feel in order to put them in the mood to convey the message that you want to convey. And this is super, super important in terms of the imagery and visuals that you will use in your website. Now, the second principle is about social validation. What is social validation? Well, basically, us as humans, we see a lot of things in the world, and most things are actually very complicated, right? So in order to make decisions, we are trying to really gather information very quickly. Is this thing a good thing, or is this a bad thing? Is this going to hurt me, or is this going to help me? Because things are complicated, I'm looking for shortcuts to understand the answer to these questions. And one of the most, again, based on our history and evolution, one of our best ways to understand what to do is to look at what other people are doing. Okay, so we might not admit this. We might think that we make our own choices, but honestly, subconsciously behind our decision making, a lot of times we would look to see what other people are doing. Is this person doing this? So if he's doing this, that must be smart, so I want to do this as well. Or on the other hand, if so many people are doing something, that must be the right thing. So instead of going deep and doing the research and thinking about this, which uses a lot of brain power, our brain is trying to look for the fastest way to make decisions without having to work out, and use a lot of energy. So they will look for the shortcuts, and the shortcut is if other people are doing this, then it must be a good thing, which is called social validation. And that is the reason why we will try to put as many social proofs into our website. This is how testimonials comes into place. This is why we put logos of famous companies that we worked with. This is why a lot of times we use numbers. We have so-and-so customers, we generated so-and-so revenue, because by doing this, by telling them, what other people are doing and that other people are using our service and other people have found this successful, we're using this innate psychology trigger of social validation to give them that shortcut. And so don't think too much about this. This is probably a good idea, and this is information. This is a principle that's so important into convincing people that you are doing something good and they should trust you. And that's how you, again, build trust in the web design that you are doing. So social proof and social validation, key principle in psychology. Now you understand why this happens and why in all the web designs that you're seeing all these different testimonials and social proof. All right, the third thing, which is critical, is the psychology of color. So the way that we are built and our brain built, and we react emotionally to colors, okay? And we need to understand this. Now, you know how important colors is, and obviously our work is as designers is to pick the right colors, but you need to understand the psychology of how these colors effect on us. Now, some of these effects are based on like deep psychological and even physiological effects. So, for example, when we see the red color, our blood and we become our heart rate or something goes up, right? And this is probably based on the fact that when you used to see blood or something like this, you need to get excited so you can run or you can fight or something like that. So some colors have physiological effects on us. The contrary to this is green, which usually relaxes our body, and that's why a lot of hospitals are painted green in order for people in them to relax. And so we need to understand as a designer the meaning of and the psychological effect of all of these colors that we can use so that we can choose them and use them effectively on our website. Now, one of the websites that I use as part of my research, or every time I'm designing a website and I have to think about this, is because I don't remember all of it by heart, is I'm using this website, which is Empower Yourself with Psychology.com. And while this website is super ugly and not so well designed, they have here most of the colors, right? You can see blue, purple, all of them, and you can click them and get into a full-on page that talks about what is the psychological effect of this specific color. So this is something that I would go and look into every time I'm picking colors. This will also help me kind of communicate to my clients why I picked this specific color. And you should definitely go through them, review all the colors, and then go back to this as a resource when you're designing your next project. So while those were the key principles that I think that you should know and familiarize yourself with it, there's definitely a lot more. So I want to show you this. This is called the Cognitive Bias Codex, and you have here, like, I think 180 different biases. And what does it mean, biases? Bias, it just means that your brain has a shortcut. Just like we talked about the social validation shortcut, all of these 180 ones are shortcuts that your brain has in order to make decisions faster. Now, the thing about these shortcuts is sometimes it helps you to make the right decisions, but a lot of times it actually makes people choose the wrong decision. Why? Just because, we're not living in the jungles or savannas anymore and running away from tigers. We're living in a different society right now, but our brain is still wired the same way. So you need to familiarize yourself with these different biases so that you can tap into them and you can understand the meaning of what you're doing using the design. So, of course, this is just the name of them, but if you'll Google, or we'll link this below this video, on Wikipedia, there's the list of cognitive biases, and you can go ahead and click each of them to go ahead and read a little bit about all of them. And this is super interesting and also super helpful. So you don't need to, spend years, but you can spend a few minutes on each, and you will have like an important insight that you might be able to use in your next design projects. If you're not into diving through on Wikipedia, here's a book that I highly recommend. It's called Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman, who I think is a Nobel Prize winner for economics. And this is basically a book where they went through and did a lot of experiments on how people think and make decisions, and that's how they kind of found out and wrote about a lot of these biases. It affects, how we buy things, how we make decisions about, what's good, what's bad. And I think that most designers will benefit, all designers will highly benefit from reading this and understanding the basic psychology of how our brain works and how, we make decisions as human beings. I hope you find this video super helpful. Like this video, subscribe this, share this, comment. Let me know what's your favorite psychology hack or cognitive bias, and I will see you on the next video. Bye-bye.